Well, hello. So for the next video in this series about the door of transformation, to reiterate if I haven't said it already, because I've looked at my past videos I took yesterday and decided, nah, they're too edgy. We're going to have to tone down a bit. This was a well, between the car accident on 666 and open heart surgery, metaphorically, I was killed in one and died in the other. Metaphorically, I remember leaving my body and coming back into my body on the car accident. I remember it very well. I can even smell it while I'm recording this. It was really an extraordinary experience. The second event, that was on 6/6/06, in other words. And 10 years later, April the 13th, I had open heart surgery. So we're going to kind of pick it up from there. What does all that mean? Well, how is that relative to the door? It's a backdrop, folks. For the people who haven't wrestled with the other side, been close to the Narnia window is what I call it, well, you're fortunate. But there's a lot of aspects of life you haven't seen. The part about wrestling with the other side and yourself and self-image and worth and why am I here and what's going on and all those disassociative things that we like to think we have a handle on, that we find out otherwise under sedation. When you're wrapped up like a baby in a swaddling blanket where you can't even suck on your thumb, because that's what it was like when I got out of open heart surgery. You couldn't put your thumb in your own mouth. We're talking the most sacred, infantile, beginning, ethereal places that some of us, well, I can't be included in that, but some of the people have never experienced the life and death circumstance of knowing the emblem, the symbology. If you know somebody who's been on the other side for a minute, even in their drippity-doo architecture, trying to show you what it was like, don't laugh at them. Don't laugh at them. These people know something. They're still here, in spite of. So when I made the window challenge for my own self-worth, this panel, which wasn't thought of to be a door yet, however, it was a door. Because when I made this panel, it's 20 1/4 inch wide by 65 1/2 inch long. Conveniently, it fits into a standard full light door for the company that I used to make doors with. Solid mahogany doors. So, no, it's not a coincidence. I made it as a panel, big enough to be put in a door, but I made it as a panel. But let's talk about what happened. About 5 years ago, well, 5.5 years ago, in my other studio in Asheville, I kickboxed when I was a kid. Professionally arm wrestled, so I was strong that way, strong-willed more than anything. But I kickboxed, so I learned some moves. And like most of you all that's played hacky sack or soccer, if somebody drops their keys, you know how to bounce it so that you can retard the breakage, the eventual, so that you can break its fall, lighten the blow. I've done that, good God, 100 times. More than that. It's a natural reaction. So I'm sure many of you can relate to something falls, you know how to break its fall with your foot. Not a lot for some people, but I'm pretty good at it. In fact, I've saved every sheet of glass I've ever dropped by catching it on the tip of my toe. Wearing boots or whatever the shoe was, I've always caught the glass until, well, there was a day. Had nothing to do with my brace that I've been wearing when I crushed my foot off in 1972. I've had some brutal pieces of this journey, and I signed up for it. So there's no commiserating with depression and all that stuff. It is what it is. How you're going to have a happy day in spite of it is where I'm going on this. So anyway, on that day, about 5.5 years ago, I'm holding a sheet of glass in the air, pretty heavy glass. Some of this art glass, people don't realize, is thicker than others. It's richer, a bigger density. One would be this flower and this green. Models have a different density. Sometimes some of the glass is thick. People who do stained glass know that. Some, as far as with a micrometer, the thickness. So per foot, it's going to have different weights. So I'm holding a piece of heavy art glass. What's art glass? These polka dots is called mottled. That's my bullseye. Yakagani, Yogahaney, some of the higher end glass, stipple glass, that's stipple by Yakagani. Some of these glass names have different characteristics. They're much heavier, they're real expensive as well. So I'm holding a piece of expensive art glass in the air. It breaks in half. Wow. Well, not only does it break in half, but the half breaks in half. That I was unprepared for. That's never happened. So it was a compound fracture in the air. I caught one, and the other caught me. I fought the law and yeah. So I drew a line, a magic marker line on my leg to give you an idea. You can see the scar faintly next to it. If I drew it in red, well, so it almost goes to the brace, and over here it stops short as well. But it created a cut. I had 22 stitches. It dug into my leg. As I looked down in my shop, I have pictures of it. It was gurgling, and I thought the immediate, I could be in trouble. I could have hit a bleeder. Well, I grabbed a towel, a shop towel, crawled to the car where I knew I had string and rope because I'm mechanically inclined. Many of you know what that means. We just have that kind of stuff hanging around. Well, so that's the backdrop of the voice. And the voice was such that, let's see, I dated this door January 21st, 1915. I believe I said in the other video 15th. No, January 21st, 2015. So somewhere around 2 months before that date, I wrestled with a voice in my mind while I was getting some glass and taking it home. I was getting some Optimum glass, Optimum. I bought some from a friend of mine in town, like a lot of it. So I'm carrying it, transporting it home in a cold time of the year, putting it in the back of my car. I could take 35 sheets at a time. These are full sheets, so they're very heavy. And as I'm carrying the glass to my car and putting it in the back seat where I had a built an area so that the glass would lay comfortably in a crate type of environment, configured my car so that this would accommodate and it would safely travel to my shop. That was a strange day. I went to church that day. Had a light lunch afterward, as I traditionally do. Then on a Sunday afternoon, pretty chill, not a lot of traffic, I went over to my location to go pick up the glass to take it to my shop. It would be a couple hours that I'd be working on it. And throughout that time, a voice started fighting me, wrestling with me because I opposed it. And it was incessive. Do you want to cut your leg again? They're going to fall down. It kept sending me doubtful messages, almost wrestling with me, as the story goes, I know, biblically for some, as though something was telling me, and I ignored it all the more. Like, it's ridiculous that there's a voice telling me not to go. How bullheaded could I be? You would see the level of bullheadedness further. But as I wrestled with the voice and said, You gotta be kidding me. I'm wrestling with a voice, and I'm talking audibly out loud. There was nobody there to hear me, but I'm talking out loud, telling the voice, calm down, I'm doing just fine, I'm moving the glass. In my mind, I'm talking this way, and sometimes, outwardly, I'd have to tell you that. How many times have you been alone in the gym, hitting the ball, hitting the racks, hitting the net, hitting the floor, your gymnastics, and you're talking to yourself, I can do this. I can do this. So this is not a strange conversation, however, mine was. Because it was trying to tell me harm was coming. It had already reminded me, hey, dude, 22 stitches. You were in the emergency room. You had all kind of very strange things happened when they sewed this up. From the doctor's voice, strange things. But anyway, in what he said. Anyway, I'm wrestling with the voice, and I said, all right, I'm going to appease you. When I was finished loading up the glass in my car and taking it over to my shop, job done, clap my hands, so to speak, wipe off the dust, you know how it goes. Feeling a little racy. I felt like my cat had been laying on my chest, and she's just a little 8-pound cat, so that wasn't much. I've already had many brushes with death. Cumulatively in my life, around 22 by this time of my life, in my 60s now. I've had many brushes with death, including my birth. So this is nothing new to me. Remember, those of us who have suffered, bled, operated on, we've been in some edgy areas in our mind, recovery and such, while our friends are golfing, playing tennis, and, yep, dancing on the floor. But some of us have to hold back because we're on a journey. Healing, recovery, the cast, the splint, the operation. Yep, from babies on. I've heard of babies having to have open heart surgery in the first 30 days. All of us come in with an agenda to some degree. We got a battle to fight while we're going to be here in this sand. All this knowledge and buffets and choices, and look at that one. Ooh, man, is that one cool? Is that pretty? Or, wow, does that taste good? We got a life of choices. So I succumbed to the voice and said, all right, I will appease you. And I'm feeling stupid, crazy at this point. Like, what? Beyond rationalization. I'm arguing with a voice for a couple of hours. Well, okay, let's do this thing. I mean, I've been on some challenges in my life. I got scars. I got a lot of scars, physical scars. So I go to the hospital, not Sisters of Mercy. And that's kind of an emergency clinic type of thing. They're very well equipped, but it is what it is. It's a little triage Band-Aid hospital, and they're quite effective. I'm sure they've saved many lives. So I walked in the door looking fine. My heart had been racing. Felt a little pressure on my chest, a little. And the only thing that really stuck out to me, I believe there was 4 signs, and the third one was, I'm going to set this camera down. Just set it down on the tripod. Maybe look it up. So, hopefully this camera doesn't shut off. That would be inconvenient. So, I said I just come in here. I feel like my heart is racing a little bit too much, and I wonder if you can check it. It was so casual. It was silly. It was so casual. Not silly as in its value of importance, but I felt fine for the most part. I didn't feel anything like I was going to pass out. I felt a little dancy, like, nothing more than moving the glass. I didn't feel anything above and beyond, other than my esophagus was burning. Like, like you run in the cold and you swallow the air and your windpipe kind of freezes up, and it was in your chest, and that amazed me. I don't know where that came from, and I've certainly felt it before, but not with a little weight on my chest and feeling like I just moved half a mountain, which was several hundred pounds of glass, so that I thought was to be expected. Well, guess what? The place changed its composure, let's say, its personality, and went into a red alert kind of stage and mode, and probes and under the tongue and blood drawn and the whole thing, and it was quite masterful to watch. These people are dynamic, and our emergency room triage, it always fascinates me, the processes of life, the processes. I just love to know how things work. And so the lady who was the manager, emergency room director, I don't know what, they don't call managers and presidents, but the director, supervisor would be the appropriate word. The supervisor was a woman, and she seemed quite efficient. And she said quickly, within 20 minutes of being there, "Sir, we've ordered an ambulance. You're having a heart attack. Rest assured, we're taking care of you." I said, "Really? Aren't I supposed to know if I'm having a heart attack?" And she looked at me like, "Shut up, stupid. Sit down, pay attention, and we'll take you there." And this is like one of those kind of, alrighty then. So as I sat down knowing where I stood, this lady, she was doing what she needed to do. She didn't need any fight from my end, assuredly. And so I'm willingly following her direction and sitting to being a good little boy at 60 years old and doing what I was expected to do. And the EMS came, opened up the doors to the ambulance, and they're looking at the vitals so that they know where to pick up as, they've got to know the vitals to know what they're transporting and what stage of. So they're looking at it and going, and telling this lady, whatever her name was, we'll just make something up, Helen, he's not having a heart attack. He doesn't have any BCYs going, blah, blah, blah. And Helen retorting back, what's your badge number, and all that. And it was awkward being torn, as though emotionally, of course, nobody touched me, but laying with fascination now in the gurney, in the middle of going on the in the opening of the clinic, not in the ambulance but ready to be within feet of it, while three people are confronting each other medically violently. You don't know, what's your badge, this and that. And then one or two people came from the clinic and said, Helen, he's not having a heart attack. And Helen was the only voice out of 5 people that's saying, shut up, get him out of here, and yada yada. I never heard back. I didn't go back to that clinic, because once I went to the hospital, it was a whirl. I didn't check in like normal, and you know the routine if you've been to the hospital before. People are going into modes, stat. They know what to do. They save lives. So all that business went into play. So the voice was telling me. It was protecting me. And I was oblivious. And I fought with the voice. I thought, this is the most ridiculous thing. I'm not going to surrender to a voice. What in the world am I thinking? I've been drunk many times in my life. Am I drunk now without drinking? Is there some sort of a flashback since you've been drunk a lot when you grew up and my father drank himself to death at an early age? That was part of my folder of normal. What did you see when you grew up? Some of the things I seen, my parents fighting each other, the violence, throwing, hitting. It created a PST type of thing I've heard in some people. Yes, it's been on my mind all my life. My father left early. My mother's leaving now in stage 4 cancer. Didn't know my mother very well in this life, and didn't know her in her life, and not in her passing either. But that's the journey I signed up for. Yes, I question why all the time, all throughout my life. Why can't I have a mother that would blah blah blah, or a father, blah blah blah. But after a while, you don't complain why. You just sort of look over the circumstance, frame it up. Well, I can move my right arm, but I can't move my left knee. And eventually, as the adaptive creatures that we happen to be, we know how to move on and make lemonade in spite of the lemons that were delivered to us by the crates every day. Some of us have figured out a good recipe of lemonade in spite of all that, and that's what I purpose to do in my life and stories and what I make and say and all those other things. But this was certainly a transformational circumstance, opportunity. Yes, it's an opportunity and a blessing. All those things to be revealed days, weeks, and years after the operation. What is the significance? And those little baby packages of realization are opening up all the time. Might be a little baby package of awareness on my bench when I stop videoing this. It's like that. Just little bubbles of thought just arriving here and there. And of course, remember, something gave me this blueprint. I've never made anything like this. This interaction, this voice, this whatever it is that saves you when you nearly fall. How do you catch your feet? And why do you catch yourself? So that you don't fall. Why? Is that a silly question? So you don't fall down? My question is, do you think there's something in you that doesn't want you to fall down? That's the conversation I'm wanting to have. Well, a lot happened in this door, and it ain't over with yet. But this video is. I hope you can reflect through this video and see yourself in some circumstances, cuts and wounds, and the defenses we make up and hide behind, where the real conversations happen 2 beers later by yourself, feeling sorry for yourself. Dog looks at you, and you wake up to, what in the world? Where's the world gone? Where have I been? I've had a lot of those reflections, even in this video, even in looking at this door panel. Right now, it's not a door panel, it's framed in oak. It's a silly thing. We'll look at another piece of that in the next video. I hope you like this direction for a minute. I'm only going to have this door for about another week. A lot is in this door that I'd like to share with you all. And the extraordinary person that it's going to go to, the circumstance. I don't know the person well, but the circumstance is off the charts. That'll come up eventually as we continue to roll on this series, The Door of Transformation. Thank you.